I'm Julia Moore, 35 years old, financial consultant, Boston, Massachusetts. I have a Roth IRA, a perfect credit score, and not one photo of my childhood on display. Last Christmas, I walked out of a family reunion in the Smoky Mountains and left behind a prepaid cabin, a chartered boat tour, and the last ounce of patience I had for people who shared my DNA. I didn't scream. I didn't argue. I simply walked out, turned off my phone, and let the chaos unfold. But let me take you back to the beginning, back to the moment I realized my presence in the family was optional. My money, however, was not. I grew up in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, in a home that looked perfect from the street. My mother, Linda, was the angel of the neighborhood, white-gloved, red-lipped, always ready with banana bread and unsolicited parenting advice. My father, Tom, taught middle school science and spent most of his evenings fixing things that weren't broken. Then there was my sister, Marin, 4 years younger, born with dimples and a sixth sense for when the spotlight was about to hit. If I was the scaffolding of the family, Marin was the chandelier swinging, sparkling, admired from every angle. I started working at 15, paid my way through Penn State, graduated early, got my Series 7. Meanwhile, Marin dropped out of college and became a lifestyle vlogger. Yes, vlogger. Sponsored by herbal teas and a plastic-free deodorant company. My parents subscribed to her channel. They never asked what I did for a living. Last Christmas was the first time I'd accepted an invitation home in almost 6 years. Not because I missed that, because I was tired of carrying the guilt they assigned to my absence. The cabin was rented in my name on my credit card. The boat tour for the next morning, also booked by me, non-refundable. And dinner at Belmonte, the most expensive French restaurant in eastern Tennessee, had been planned down to the wine pairing. For them, for my parents. Still, I arrived at the reunion with a humble gift. A dark green envelope, thick with a reservation confirmation and a handwritten note. To Mom and Dad. From your daughter, who finally has a moment to sit still with you. They never opened it. The party was already in full swing when I stepped inside the cabin. Rustic decor, faint smell of cinnamon cider, and 52 relatives I hadn't seen since Obama's first term. Marin was in the center of it all, holding court with a Bluetooth mic clipped to her red velvet sweater. She had her signature Marin Moments banner behind her and a camera on a tripod, recording everything for the vlog. I stood near the coat rack, clutching a box of bourbon pecan bars I had baked that morning. They were my dad's favorite. My mom once called them forgettable. She hadn't changed. Then came the toast. Everyone. Mom's voice rang clear. Let's raise a glass to the daughter who has always been here. The one who brings joy. Who cares? Who never forgets her family. She turned to Marin. This is the daughter we are so proud of. Marin did a mock bow, then pulled out a wrapped frame. I made this for you guys. It's a collage of our best moments together. The room cooed as she unveiled it, a mosaic of family memories, lovingly arranged. Except, I wasn't in a single photo. Not one. Not at the Thanksgiving where I'd paid for the catering. Not at the hospital where I stayed 48 hours straight while Dad had a hernia surgery. Not even the Easter I flew home last minute to fix a burst pipe in their kitchen. They had erased me. My throat tightened. But I didn't cry. Instead, I walked up to Mom, extended my green envelope, and said, "Dinner's at 7. I thought it would be nice for the 3 of us to catch up, just us." She glanced down at it, then back up with that tight, social smile she saves for neighbors she doesn't like. "Oh, honey," she said. "We already have plans with Marin." She booked us a sunset cruise. I blinked. The one I paid for. She shrugged. We thought it was from her. She's so thoughtful. Isn't she? That was the moment I felt something inside me snap. Not rage. Not despair. Something colder. Sharper. I looked at the camera. Still recording. The little red light, blinking like a heartbeat. Keep rolling, I murmured, more to myself than anyone. Then I turned around, walked out the front door, and left the bourbon bars on the porch railing. I got in my rental car and drove 2 hours back to Boston, ignoring every call that lit up my screen. The next morning, I had 38 missed calls, 15 from Marin, 10 from my mother, the rest from various aunts and cousins who hadn't spoken to me in years. The boat tour had been canceled. The cabin was locked early. The credit card I used to book everything. Deactivated. They were stranded. No ride. No refund. No dinner. And for the first time in 35 years, I didn't care. But the best part, I hadn't even started yet. When I was 7, I gave my mother a drawing I made in school. It was a crooked house with a big red heart above it and 4 stick figures. I wrote home in crayon. She looked at it, smiled politely, and said, "Well, it's a bit messy. Julia, maybe draw it again when you're older." That's the earliest memory I have of not being enough. Growing up, I wasn't mistreated, at least. Not in ways that left bruises. It was subtler than that. The kind of neglect that wears pearls, offers you lemonade, and tells you not to be too much. My sister Marin, on the other hand, was always just right. She had a way of speaking that made grown-ups feel interesting. She remembered birthdays, made handmade cards, and performed tap dances during Thanksgiving dinner. Meanwhile, I was the kid who quietly set the table, double-checked the gravy, and made sure Dad had his low-sodium mashed potatoes. Marin got attention. I got responsibilities. By the time we hit high school, the difference was glaring. She dyed her hair pink and skipped class to find herself. My parents called it artistic. I joined AP Calculus and got into Penn State with scholarships. My parents called it expected. But I didn't rebel. I worked. I saved. And at 23, I helped them refinance their mortgage after my dad lost a semester's pay from a district budget cut. I told them the money came from a bonus. It didn't. I drained half my emergency fund and didn't eat out for 6 months. They never said thank you. After college, Marin floated between retail jobs, a brief stint at a kombucha startup, and eventually, her vlogging career. Suddenly, she was inspirational. She'd record videos titled "How to Heal Generational Trauma" while sitting on the family porch, legs crossed like a yogi, sipping turmeric lattes I paid for. My parents shared her videos on Facebook with captions like "Proud of our baby girl." They never shared my promotions, never asked what exactly I did in finance. Still, I didn't hold it against Marin. She didn't ask to be favored. She just benefited. The last time I saw them before Christmas was 5 years ago. My father had a minor heart attack. Marin was booked on a retreat in Sedona. My mom couldn't drive at night. So I took a red-eye from Boston, drove straight to the hospital, and stayed 3 nights in a plastic chair beside his bed. I brought Dad his bourbon pecan bars, the ones I made from scratch, just the way he liked. He smiled and said, "You always remember." Huh? Then he winced and changed the subject. 3 months after he recovered, I received a thank you letter. But it wasn't from my parents. It was from the hospital, an invoice marked "paid in full" with my name on the billing line. That's when I realized something important. In my family, love wasn't remembered. Only appearances were. So I did what every reasonable adult in a dysfunctional family does. I distanced myself. Birthdays were acknowledged via text. Holidays politely declined. Instead, I started channeling my effort into therapy, meditation, and a coffee habit that spiraled out of control. My therapist, Susan, God bless her bluntness, once asked me, "Why do you keep showing up for people who only notice you when you're missing?" It was a good question. One I didn't know how to answer. Until my mother called last November. "Hi, sweetheart," she began, her voice as honeyed and brittle as ever. "We were thinking, maybe this Christmas, you could join us at Laura's cabin in Tennessee." Laura was my mother's sister, a woman who once told me I smiled too seriously. Her cabin was rustic in the way million-dollar listings like to pretend. Designer plaid, faux antlers, no Wi-Fi on purpose. "Everyone will be there," Mom continued. "Even Marin booked a flight. She's vlogging the reunion." I hesitated. I could already feel the weight of walking into a room where I was both invited and unwanted. But then she added, "Your dad would love to see you." And that changed everything. I booked the cabin. Not just my room, the entire reservation. 7 bedrooms, 4 bathrooms, 3 nights. Paid in full. Then I called the boat company and reserved the river cruise Marin mentioned last Christmas. And the restaurant Belle Monet had a holiday prefix I knew my mom would adore. I put a deposit down and arranged a custom wine pairing. I also ordered a gift for them, a first edition copy of my mother's favorite novel, The Shell Seekers, with a handwritten note tucked inside. Because sometimes the quietest daughters carry the loudest memories. I placed everything in a deep green envelope and sealed it with a wax stamp. It was symbolic. It was foolish. As the day drew closer, I practiced what I'd say if someone brought up the past. What if they asked why I'd been distant? What if they didn't? I imagined hugging my dad, smiling at Marin, maybe, just maybe, feeling like I belonged. The night before I left, I stayed up baking bourbon pecan bars, my father's favorite. The kitchen smelled like toasted sugar and cinnamon. I took it as a sign. I packed my car with care. Gifts, baked goods, one pressed velvet dress I hadn't worn in years. Hope, more hope than I should have. I pulled into the cabin driveway as snow flurried like confetti. Inside, I saw twinkling lights, laughter, people dancing. I took a breath, grabbed the tin of bars, adjusted my scarf, walked up to the door, and as I reached for the handle, the door opened itself. Standing there was Marin, in full makeup, camera in one hand, mic in the other. "Oh!" She blinked. "You made it." She didn't step aside. Behind her, I saw my mother, lifting a champagne flute. Then her voice cut through the air. To the whole room, to the daughter who never forgot us, the one who's always shown up. My name was not mentioned. Neither was I. And just like that, I knew. This wasn't a reunion. It was a reenactment. I don't know what I expected. Maybe a smile, a nod of acknowledgement, a half second where someone looked up and thought, "Oh, right, Julia's here." But no. As Marin held the mic with one hand and flipped her hair with the other, my mother raised her glass and sealed the ceremony. To the daughter who never forgot us. And just like that, I was erased. I stood at the doorway, bourbon pecan bars growing cold in my arms, the green envelope I'd carefully sealed reservation confirmations. Handwritten note. The first edition novel all suddenly felt ridiculous. Behind Marin, the room was full of people I used to call family. Uncles with Santa hats, cousins balancing toddlers on their hips, aunts already buzzed from sparkling cider, snapping selfies beside a fireplace that probably cost more than my last client's Roth conversion. Nobody looked at me, except Paul. Paul is my cousin's husband. Tall, quiet. Mostly stays out of the family drama. He had his phone in one hand, half hidden behind a decorative pillar, recording what looked like B-roll for Marin's vlog. We locked eyes for a moment. His face didn't change, but he didn't look away. That was the only real acknowledgement I got. I cleared my throat, stepped forward, and gently placed the dessert tin on the side table. Marin turned toward me like I was a delivery person who'd overstayed my welcome.
"Oh,
"Thanks," she said, glancing at the label. "Gluten." "No," I said. "They're for Dad." Marin blinked. "He's in the kitchen. You can leave them there." The green envelope was still in my coat pocket. I had planned to hand it directly to Mom and Dad together. Maybe say something about how much I was looking forward to dinner. Instead, I turned toward the kitchen. I found my dad rinsing wine glasses in the farmhouse sink, his back to the chaos. He looked up when I entered, surprised. "Hey there, Jules," he said, drying his hands on a cloth napkin. "Didn't know you were coming today." "I RSVP'd last week," I said. "To Mom's email." He frowned. "She didn't tell me that." I handed him the envelope. "Dinner reservations. My treat. Just us." He took it carefully, studied the wax seal like it might crumble in his hands. Then he smiled small, sad, and nodded. "I'd like that," he said. The moment was brief. We were interrupted by Marin's voice echoing from the living room. "Mom, come look at the collage." We stepped out together, and there it was framed, centered, displayed like an altar to selective memory. A photo collage. Christmases, birthdays, beach trips, pumpkin patches. I wasn't in a single one. Not when I paid for that Disney trip in 2017. Not when I flew cross-country to surprise Dad on his 60th. Not even the Easter brunch where I got food poisoning because I ate the deviled eggs no one else touched. I looked at my mother. She beamed with pride. "You really captured the spirit of our family, Marin." And then came the quote that would echo in my ears for weeks. "Julia's never really done much for us." Has she? It wasn't said with malice. It was worse than that. It was casual, effortless. A truth she believed so completely. She didn't even register my presence 5 feet away. Dad stiffened beside me. Paul lowered his phone. And for the first time in 20 years, I saw him speak directly to Mom. "Actually," he said, "I think Julia's paid for 3 of these trips." A silence swept across the room. Not dramatic, more like confusion. As if he had spoken in a different language. Mom blinked. "What are you talking about?" Paul looked at me, then back at her. The 2018 cabin. Her name was on the invoice. Same with the Florida beach house. Marin cut in. "You must be mistaken. That was my brand deal." Paul didn't argue. He just handed over his phone. "Check the metadata." She booked it. "You posted the video." And just like that, the room tilted. Mom turned to me, suddenly flustered. "Oh, sweetheart, that's not what I meant. Of course you help. We don't talk about money." "No," I said quietly. "You don't talk about me." Another silence. This one sharper. Dad opened the envelope, reading the note aloud, his voice soft, cracking. "To Mom and Dad, I wanted to give you 3 days without distractions. Just us. No cameras. No expectations. Just family." Marin scoffed. "Sounds a bit dramatic." I looked at her and smiled. "Don't worry. You won't have to worry about me showing up again." I walked to the coat rack, put on my jacket, and turned back one last time. "I just wanted you to see me. That's all." No one stopped me. I stepped out into the snow, pulled the collar up around my neck, and let the cold slap me awake. As I reached the car, my phone buzzed. A text from Dad. I'm sorry. 2 words. Enough to make me hesitate. Not enough to turn around. I sat in the driver's seat, the green envelope now slightly torn from Dad's fingers, resting in my lap. For a moment, I considered going back, saying something grand, making a scene. But then I remembered Marin's smile, my mother's toast, the collage. I started the engine. As I pulled out of the driveway, I saw the light on Paul's phone still blinking red, recording. Good. Let the camera roll. Because what came next wasn't petty. It wasn't dramatic. It was necessary. By the time I crossed the state line into Virginia, I had stopped crying. Not because I wasn't hurt, but because something deeper had started to settle in. Clarity. There's a strange silence that follows emotional rejection. Not the kind that's loud and explosive, but the kind that hums beneath your skin. Like white noise. I wasn't spiraling. I wasn't breaking down. I was recalibrating. I stopped at a gas station, hands shaking only slightly as I grabbed a lukewarm coffee and stared into the cup like it might offer an answer. What now? I could have gone home. Buried it. Told myself I'd tried. But that moment when Mom said, "Julia's never really done much for us," it echoed. Not because it hurt. Because it was believed. By her. By Marin. Maybe even by half the family. I had lived an entire life showing up. Quietly. Consistently. Invisibly. And somehow, in their narrative, I was the self-centered one who only showed up to be dramatic. That's when I knew. They didn't deserve silence. When I got back to Boston, it was nearly 3 a.m. The snow had turned to slush. My phone still buzzing with unanswered calls. 1 voicemail from my dad. 2 from Maureen. 1 apologetic. The other less so. And 1 from a number I didn't recognize. It was Paul. Hey. I didn't want to get in the middle of anything. But I kept the footage. If you need it. That single line. It was like someone lit a match in a dark room. I didn't sleep. I made tea, sat in my studio apartment surrounded by receipts, old emails, financial docs I'd buried over the years, and started building a file. 3 hours in, I found the first crack. An email forwarded from my dad back in 2020. It was an escrow summary from their post-divorce property sale. The numbers didn't add up. According to that doc, the split should have been 60-40, but the payout into my mother's account, significantly more. Too much more. At the time, Dad had chalked it up to a clerical error. But now, I had the software, the training, and the motive. I pulled the original escrow contract from county records, matched the distribution line by line, and there it was. A second disbursement account listed under an LLC name, Gracemont Ventures. I ran the name through every system I had access to. Guess who the registered agent was? Laura Stone. My aunt. Mom's sister. The woman who hosted the Christmas that imploded everything. Let me pause here to say, this wasn't about the money. Not entirely. It was about manipulation. Layers of it. Women who present as graceful and charitable while pulling strings behind closed doors to benefit the child they chose. I wasn't just cut out emotionally. I was cut out legally. I called Paul back. He picked up on the first ring. Still recording? I asked. Always, he replied. I have the toast. The Julia never did much comment. The collage reveal. The moment your dad opened the envelope. All of it. I swallowed hard. Can you send it to me? There was a pause. Then, Julia, whatever you're planning, be smart. I'm not planning revenge, I said. I was but I do plan to correct the narrative. Over the next few days, I built my case like a prosecutor. I printed the bank statements showing deposits from Gracemont Ventures into my mother's personal account. I compiled screenshots of every trip I had booked, email confirmations, timestamps, receipts. I dug up Marin's own vlogs, where she claimed credit for events I paid for. The metadata on the footage didn't lie. I used Paul's video to anchor the timeline, cutting it with dates, overlays, voiceovers, a silent documentary of erasure. Then I wrote a single email, subject line, correcting the record, from Julia Moore. I BCC'd everyone. Every relative at that party. My mother, my aunt, my sister, and a few unexpected recipients like the compliance department of the bank where Aunt Laura worked. Inside the email, a Dropbox link, a 5-minute video titled Invisible Daughters. Underneath, one sentence. When you choose not to see someone, you leave them no choice but to be seen. I didn't wait for the responses. I turned off my phone, took a walk through the snowy Boston streets, and exhaled for the first time in what felt like years. For once, I wasn't the one absorbing the shame. I was returning it. Later that night, Paul sent me a text. You might want to check Facebook. I did. Marin had posted a photo of herself crying. Caption: sometimes family wounds cut deep. Trying to be strong while processing betrayal. The comments were a mix of sympathy and confusion. But buried halfway down was a comment from Dad. No one betrayed you. They just finally told the truth. And that's when I realized this wasn't over. They weren't going to go down quietly, which meant I had to be ready for the next move. They say revenge is a dish best served cold. I say it's a dish best prepared with receipts, clear intent, and a spine made of steel. By the time I reached Boston that icy morning, I wasn't angry, I was focused. There was no yelling, no crying in the shower, just silence. And that silence, it was strategy. The first thing I did was retrieve the reservation records from the cabin and cruise company. PDFs, timestamps, billing names my name, not Marin's, not Mom's. Then I dug into every trip over the past 5 years. The beach house in Naples. I had Venmo log. The Thanksgiving in Asheville. Credit card receipts. Even the catered Mother's Day brunch they claimed was Marin's loving surprise. Guess who paid the $973 invoice from Willow and Thyme Catering? Me. Not that I needed to prove it to them, but I needed to prove it to myself that I hadn't imagined a lifetime of giving being rewritten as selfish absence. Then came Paul. He sent me the raw footage from Christmas Eve. 12 minutes. High definition. Timestamped. My mother's toast. Marin's speech. The reveal of the family photo collage. And the moment clear as daylight when I stood 5 feet away, holding bourbon pecan bars. As my mother said, Julia's never really done much for us. Has she? I watched it 3 times. Not because I didn't believe it, but because I needed to memorize that tone. Not cruelty. Dismissal. It was the voice you use when talking about someone who's already left the room. That night, I didn't sleep. Instead, I stayed up building a digital archive. Folder by folder. I labeled every piece of evidence. SEM. Trips paid. With spreadsheets and booking confirmations. Vlog discrepancies. Clips where Marin claimed credit for my gestures. Financial favor history. Emails. Transfers. And screenshots dating back to 2014. Video evidence. Christmas 2024. Paul's footage. Fully subtitled. This wasn't revenge. It was narrative correction. A rebalancing of the story they told about me. I almost stopped there. Almost. But then I found something unexpected. While scrolling through Marin's Instagram archive, I noticed a pattern. Several gifted trips she claimed were sponsored content had no disclaimers. No ad. No gifted. Legally. That's a violation of the FTC guidelines on influencer advertising. I dug deeper. A few of those sponsored events. She had submitted those invoices as tax write-offs while I had paid the vendors directly. So not only had she taken credit, she had profited. Now I had a decision to make. This wasn't just about family anymore. This was about ethics. Fraud. Would I take it public? Or would I make them sit in it first? I chose subtlety. I created a private Vimeo link titled "The Cost of Being Forgotten." Set it to password protected. Then I drafted a single email, addressed to the family group thread. Yes. The same one where I was mostly silent all year. Hi everyone. I hope you're enjoying what's left of the cabin stay. I put something together. Just some memories. Some receipts. And a little clarity. You've always loved Marin's videos. This one's from me. Julia. I pasted the link. Included the password. Remember, me 2024. And hit send. 20 minutes later, the typing bubbles began. One from Aunt Sharon. Is this real? One from Cousin David. That's Marin's voice, right? Saying it was her gift. And then from my mother, Julia. Call me. Now. I didn't. Instead, I turned off my notifications and went for a walk. Cold air in my lungs. Gloves stiff with winter salt. For the first time in weeks, my chest didn't feel tight. I passed a bakery that reminded me of the one where I used to buy cinnamon rolls for Dad on Sundays. I stopped in, bought one, ate it slowly on a park bench, and smiled. That evening, Marin posted a carefully worded statement on her Instagram story. Family should be about love, not receipts. Everyone makes mistakes. And I've learned that sometimes silence is kinder than proving a point. Love to everyone, trying to navigate complicated family dynamics this holiday season. She didn't name me. She didn't apologize. She just spun it again. But the real twist came later that night. I got an email. Not from my mom. Not from Marin. From a name I hadn't seen in over 2 years. Kyle Reynolds, my ex, the one who dumped me with a text that said, "You're great, but you care more about proving yourself than being present." Subject line: just watch the video. Damn. His message was short. I never knew how much you put up with. Wish I had asked better questions. For what it's worth, I see you now. I stared at the screen. For a moment, it all hit me at once. How long I had gone unnoticed. How carefully I had tried to earn love by being indispensable. And how quickly people forget what they never bothered to see. I took a deep breath. Because now, they were watching. And I hadn't even made my final move. I wasn't trying to go viral. That's the part people always assume when you post something honest. They think it's about clout, attention, payback. But when I uploaded that video, I wasn't thinking about likes. I was thinking about how many times I'd swallowed my voice to keep the peace in rooms where peace meant silence for me. I just wanted the story straight. But then things got louder. By day 2, the Vimeo link had over 600 views. That was more than just family. Someone had shared it. And then someone else. And soon enough, a TikTok creator who specialized in toxic family callouts stitched a clip of Paul's video with a caption that read, "When the invisible daughter comes with documented evidence and a wax-sealed envelope, we stand." The sound went viral. People started commenting on the phrase, "You don't talk about me." It became a kind of anthem. I woke up to hundreds of DMs. Most were strangers, thanking me. Some shared stories of being erased in their own families of golden siblings, passive-aggressive moms, silent fathers. One woman wrote, "Oh, I'm 52. My sister still gets praised for showing up to dinner. I bought our parents a house. I never heard thank you once. Thank you for reminding me I wasn't crazy." That's when I realized this wasn't just my story. It was ours. Meanwhile, the fallout at home was beginning. Marin posted a second story longer this time. Black screen. White text. A note on mental health and privacy violations. Classic influencer deflection. But someone had already found the IRS contact link for reporting improper write-offs. And Marin's name. Well, let's just say tax talk doesn't sleep. Then came the message from Aunt Laura. Short. Clipped. Ice cold. Julia, I don't know what game you think you're playing, but dragging family through the mud publicly only makes you look unstable. I suggest you take that video down before more people see what kind of person you've become. I stared at the screen. Let her words roll off like oil on wax. Unstable. A favorite term used by those who can't control the narrative anymore. That night, I got a call from my dad. For once, he wasn't whispering. "Your mom's upset," he began. I said nothing. "She says she was taken out of context. That she didn't know Paul was recording? She said I never did much for the family," I replied. On camera. While I stood right there, he sighed. "I know." Another pause. Then, quietly, "I should have said something then. I'm sorry I didn't." There was a heaviness in his voice that wasn't there before. A kind of slouching through the phone line. Regret. Maybe. Or weariness. "I want to fix this," he said. "If I can." 2 days later, a certified letter arrived at my apartment. From his law firm. Not addressed to me. Addressed to my mother. It was a notarized notice of intent. He was officially contesting the 2018 divorce financial records, claiming misallocation of funds, naming Gracemont Ventures, and Laura Stone as parties to investigate. My hands shook. I hadn't asked him to do this. I hadn't even brought it up. But somehow, maybe for the first time in years, he saw it. At that point, Marin went quiet online. No updates. No post. No healing journeys. I assumed she was regrouping, plotting her next spin. But then something happened that none of us expected. Paul texted me. "She left." "What do you mean?" "Packed a suitcase. Said she needed to think. Left her phone. Just disappeared." "Where?" Only thing she took was her journal. And the old camcorder. Not even the DSLR. The camcorder. Julia. Like 2009. I should have felt triumphant. But I didn't. Because when golden children fall, they don't always break outward. Sometimes they shatter inward. When the applause stops and the mirrors crack. And Marin, for all her manipulation, she was still human. Still my sister. And I couldn't help but wonder, was this all she'd ever learned to be? The chosen one. The favorite. The one who had to shine just to feel seen. Still, that didn't erase what she'd done. Didn't fix the years I lost. Didn't change the erasure. But it made one thing clear. This wasn't just a story about one sister getting revenge. It was about a family forced to finally face itself. In full light. No filters. The last message I received that week was from Paul. "Found something. On the camcorder. You need to see it. It's about you." The camcorder was ancient. A bulky silver Sony, probably from 2007, with duct tape holding the battery in place. Paul handed it to me like it was radioactive. "She left it on the kitchen counter," he said. "Right beside the note. Don't spin this. Just watch it." That alone told me this wasn't for the public. Not for her followers. Not even for Mom. It was for me. I sat on the edge of my bed that night, hands curled around a chipped mug of chamomile tea, and watched the screen light up with static. Then her voice. No makeup, no ring light, no soft music bed humming underneath. Just Marin, in a hoodie, sitting on the floor of our childhood bedroom, knees pulled to her chest, hair unbrushed. I don't know if I'm going to send this, she started, or even finish it, but I need to say it. And this is the only way I can without performing. She looked down, then straight into the lens. Julia, you were never invisible to me. I blinked. Part of me wanted to pause it right there. The other part held its breath. You were kind of terrifying. She laughed softly. Not in a bad way. In a competent way. Like, you always had a spreadsheet for everything. You fixed stuff. You just handled life. And everyone treated you like that meant you didn't need anything. But I knew better. She reached over, pulled something into frame. A snow globe. I gasped. It was the one I'd given her when she broke her leg at 10. A ballerina inside, twirling on one foot beneath fake glittering snow. She had said she hated it. Threw a tantrum that day. Called it childish. But here it was. I kept this, she said, shaking it gently, because even when I was mad at you, I knew you cared. You always did. The next part, it broke something in me. She talked about the cruise, the one where Mom said I bailed last minute. She never told you. Did she? Marin said, biting her lip. Mom changed the dates. Said you couldn't make it? Said you were too busy being important. But the truth, you were the only one who offered to pay up front. And when you did, she told me not to tell anyone. She looked down again, hands shaking now. I let her make you the villain, because it was easier than losing her approval. She always made it clear only one of us got to shine at a time. That line hit like a sucker punch. Only one of us got to shine at a time. There it was. The core of it all. The silent competition neither of us signed up for, but both of us suffered in. She kept going. Talked about the Florida trip. The fake brand deal. The time I helped pay off her grad school debt when she couldn't make rent. And she told everyone it was a scholarship. I told myself you didn't care, she said, wiping at her nose. Because if you did, I'd have to admit how awful I'd been. She paused again. Deep breath. And now, everyone saw the tape. They saw what Mom said. What I didn't say. And I don't know how to undo any of it. She lifted her eyes to the camera, finally breaking. I don't want your forgiveness. I don't even deserve a reply. But if you're watching this, I just want you to know, I saw you. I always saw you, even when I pretended not to. Then she clicked the camera off. Just like that. No music. No filter. No fade to black. Just silence. I sat there for a long time after that. Mug cold. Room dark. Phone buzzing with texts I didn't check. I wasn't crying. Not exactly. But something inside me, tight and rusted, was finally starting to move again. Not because Marin apologized, but because, for once, someone stopped pretending the erasure didn't happen. The next morning, I met Paul for coffee. We sat in the corner of a bakery downtown, cinnamon rolls between us, camcorder in his backpack. I didn't expect that, he said. Me neither, I admitted. He hesitated. Are you going to show it to anyone? I shook my head. No, it wasn't made for them. He nodded. That's fair. Then he pulled out an envelope and slid it across the table. What's this? I asked. Your dad, he said. It's from the lawyer. Inside. A notarized statement of financial wrongdoing by Laura Stone. Preliminary divorce, file correction. And this part made my breath catch a deed addendum. My dad was transferring 50% of the old family property to me. The cabin, I asked. Paul nodded. He said it never felt like home again after that Christmas. Figured maybe you could decide what to do with it now. I didn't know what to say. Still don't. But I do know this. Sometimes, justice doesn't come in one big moment. It arrives in fragments. A tape. A cinnamon roll. A deed. And sometimes, it arrives with a warning. Because just as I reached for my phone to text Dad, a message popped up on my screen. From Mom. We need to talk. Before the lawyers finish this. When I walked into the cafe that morning, I didn't know what I was expecting. Maybe a fight? Maybe an apology. However half-hearted. Maybe just silence. But I wasn't expecting the look on my mother's face tight. Composed. Yet unmistakably brittle. Like if you tapped the wrong word, she'd shatter. She stood when I approached, motioned to the booth she'd already claimed. Window seat. Her back to the sun. Always controlling the light. Thank you for coming, she said. Voice clipped. I sat across from her. Said nothing. A pause stretched between us, full of unsaid things. She finally broke the silence. You've embarrassed this family. A muscle in my jaw ticked. No, I said evenly. I exposed the truth. Embarrassment's just the price of hiding it too long. Her lips tightened. Julia, we are not the kind of people who air grievances in public. We resolve things quietly, with dignity. Funny, I replied. You had no problem being loud about my supposed failures when Paul's camera was rolling. She didn't deny it. Instead, she exhaled slowly. Your father's trying to rewrite everything. No, I said. He's finally admitting he saw it all and chose silence. Just like you did. The waitress came by, we both declined coffee. Neither of us wanted warmth. I didn't come here for a scene, she said. Then why did you ask to meet? She hesitated. Then, I want you to take down the video. All of it. You've made your point. It's gone too far. Too far, I echoed. Marin lied. You lied. You all erased me for years. And I finally told the truth. Her eyes narrowed. You don't understand what this is doing to your sister. I leaned forward, voice calm. No, you don't understand what she did to me. You never did. She looked away for the first time. That, more than anything, shook me. Your father is transferring the cabin, she said. You know what that means? I nodded. Yes. It means you lost control of the one place where I never felt welcome. Her eyes flickered. Then something softer crept in guilt. Maybe. Or its shadow. I did what I thought was right, she whispered. For the family. For balance. No, I said. You did what was convenient. And it cost me years. She folded her hand. So this is who you are now. Bitter. Public. I smiled. But it didn't reach my eyes. No. This is who I always was. You just weren't paying attention. The conversation didn't end with resolution. No hugs. No dramatic closure. But I stood up first. Left a single photo on the table. One from that Christmas me. In the corner of the frame. Holding a plate of bourbon pecan bars no one ate. She stared at it. I walked away. 3 weeks later, the legal matters were finalized. The cabin deed was mine. Marin's tax audit had begun. Paul launched a quiet documentary project titled The Cost of Silence. It wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about legacy, and choosing which parts of the story get told before someone else twists them. I visited the cabin in early spring. Snow still clung to the trees. but the lake had thawed. I sat on the deck alone, listening to silence that didn't feel empty anymore. Inside, I found something tucked behind a drawer in the bedroom. The snow globe. The ballerina still twirled. Slowly, quietly, as if nothing had ever been broken. I placed it on the windowsill. Let it catch the light. Weeks passed. Life moved forward. Then one morning, a letter arrived. Handwritten. No return address. Inside, I'm in Arizona. I'm figuring things out. I'm not ready to see you, but I'm ready to admit you were never the villain. M. I read it 3 times. Didn't cry. Didn't smile. Just folded it gently and placed it inside the photo album Dad gave me, the one where half the pages had once been blank. Not anymore. People still ask me, do you regret it? The video, the emails, the unraveling. And here's what I say. When you've lived a life of being polite at your own expense, speaking up doesn't feel like revenge. It feels like returning home, even if you have to rebuild that home from the ashes. And if you're watching this, maybe you're the Julia in your family. Maybe you're the Marin. Maybe you're the quiet dad, the dismissive aunt, or the mom trying to make things look better than they are. Whoever you are, let this be a mirror, and let it reflect what you need to see. Because sometimes, the bravest thing you'll ever do is stop playing your part. Story 2. My name is Jamie Collins. I'm 35 years old. And 3 days ago, I sold the family vacation house my father thought he still owned without telling anyone. Then I went online and canceled every single streaming account in the family. Netflix, HBO Max, Hulu, Spotify, even the Hallmark Movies and Mysteries subscription my mother begged me to keep last Christmas. They didn't know I paid for all of it. They never asked. But let's rewind, because this isn't just about real estate and streaming services. It started with a bagel and a sentence that tasted worse than the food I was trying to chew. It was one of those Sundays where Ohio felt like it couldn't decide between spring or late winter. Overcast skies, chill in the air. The kind of day that makes you want to stay under blankets, order takeout, and pretend family doesn't exist. But I showed up. Because I always show up, I parked my used Honda behind my dad's spotless Mercedes and my sister Lindsay's Lexus, the one she leased but pretends she bought. My stomach had been tight since the night before, ever since Mom's text. Brunch starts at 11. Lindsay's bringing mimosas. No heart emoji. No, can't wait to see you. Just logistics. The lake house looked the same as always. Taupe siding. Slightly chipped trim. That sagging porch swing my uncle broke in 2007, but Dad refused to fix, said it gave the place character. I stepped inside. No one looked up. The table was already set: eggs, sausage, overly toasted bagels, but the silence was what hit hardest. My mom was rinsing dishes at the sink. Even though brunch hadn't started, Dad sat by the TV, watching golf with the sound off, eyes darting between the screen and his phone. Jake, my younger brother, nodded at me briefly from the far end of the table. His AirPods stayed in. And Lindsay, she was sipping a mimosa like she was on a rooftop in Manhattan instead of in our parents' beige dining room in suburban Columbus. She wore a white blouse that probably cost more than my rent, and had that smirk, the one that said, "I'm only here for the optics." I didn't expect balloons, but not even a high. I pulled out the only empty chair farthest from Dad and sat. My own hands felt stiff. That kind of stiffness you get when you know you don't belong in a place you're biologically tied to. The silverware clinked. Nobody spoke. Even the eggs looked disappointed to be there. I reached for a bagel. The damn thing was dry, borderline stale. I started buttering it slowly, just to have something to do with my hands. And that's when Lindsay looked up from her phone and said, "It's cute you still show up. Like you matter." No sarcasm in her voice. Just flatlined cruelty. No one gasped. No one told her to knock it off. Dad. He chuckled. Mom. Kept chewing. Jake. Didn't even blink. Me. I bit into that bagel and tried not to choke on my own dignity. The taste was chalky, cold, and suddenly, the bagel felt heavier than it should have, like it was the only thing keeping me anchored to that chair, in that room, in that family. I chewed, swallowed, sipped lukewarm coffee, and stayed silent. But something cracked inside me. Not a scream, not even a spark. Just a quiet break. The kind that doesn't make noise but changes everything. I finished eating. Said I had errands to run. Nobody asked what they were. Nobody even offered a buy. By the time I got to my car, my palms were sweating. Not from anger, from clarity. It was like my body had been waiting years for permission to finally let go. And now, with that one sentence, "like you matter," Lindsay had given me exactly what I needed. Proof that I didn't matter to them. At least, not in a way that was ever going to change. That night, I opened my laptop, logged into all the family streaming accounts, every subscription they used under my name. Back in 2019, they couldn't figure out how to set up a single profile. I offered. They let me. At first, I paid for convenience. Then out of habit. Then because it was the only thing that connected me to them. I paused for a second. Then I clicked cancel. Hulu. Gone. Netflix. Gone. Spotify. Gone. Even Hallmark. It wasn't revenge. It was reality. I simply pressed a button and untethered them from my life digitally. At least. 3 days passed. I said nothing. Until 10:03 p.m. Wednesday night. My phone lit up. Text from Jake. "Hey. Why is everything disconnected?" 5 minutes later. Lindsay in the family group chat. "Is the Wi-Fi down? My apps won't load." Mom. "TV says, account not found." Did it expire? Dad. No one messaged me directly. No one asked if I was okay. They just panicked about their entertainment. I watched the group chat explode like it was some sitcom pilot I never auditioned for. And I realized I wasn't sad. I wasn't angry. I was watching them burn. From the balcony. Then I did the other thing. The one I hadn't told anyone about. I opened the folder on my desktop labeled TC Property. Traverse City. The Lake House. Or, as they like to call it, the Collins family getaway. The one my father quietly transferred to my name 4 years ago during some financial heat. He didn't explain. Said it was temporary. Said we'd flip it back later. He never brought it up again. Neither did I. But guess what? The deed. The notary stamp. The title all still had my name on them. And now, so did my power. I clicked new message to my realtor. "Hi, Rachel. Ready to list the Traverse City cabin. Photos attached. Price to move. I don't need top dollar. I need closure." I hit send. And right then, something in my chest tight, for years unclenched. But I didn't know. They were already watching. And someone in the family was about to make a call I wouldn't see coming. The morning after I sent the cabin listing, I woke up early. Not out of anxiety, but something else. A strange peace. I made black coffee. The way Dad hates it. No cream. No sugar. Just bitter honesty in a chipped mug from Traverse City. The same mug I bought during our last family summer at the lake house. They never knew I kept it. I stood in my kitchen, hands wrapped around ceramic warmth, and looked at the photo on my fridge, the one that used to hang in the lake house foyer. A picture from 4 summers ago. All 5 of us standing in front of the cabin. Fake smiles locked in. And me. Cropped. Literally. I wasn't centered. Just slightly off frame. As if I'd wandered into someone else's family. That detail used to sting. Now it made sense. That afternoon, Paul, my uncle by marriage, and the family's unofficial videographer texted me. "Hey, Jamie. Just a heads up during brunch." My boom mic caught everything. "Thought you might want the file. Your call." At first, I didn't reply. Then I did. Keep it. Might be the only honest moment ever captured in that house. Paul's never been like the rest of them. He married into the chaos and managed to stay kind. Detached, but kind. His camera never lied, and maybe that's why they don't talk to him much outside of birthdays. Thursday evening rolled around. I was eating dinner spaghetti from a jar, cold over the sink. Because sometimes, you don't want a meal. You want silence. That's when my phone rang. Unknown number. Normally, I'd let it go. But I was in that mood. Let's see what fresh disaster this is. I answered. Jamie Collins. His voice was polished. Calculated. Too calm. "This is Ronald Berenger, legal counsel for your father. Howard Collins. He asked me to reach out regarding the Traverse City property, which has come to his attention was listed for sale." I didn't move. Didn't speak. Just listened. Ron continued. Tone clipped but polite. "There seems to be some confusion. Your father believed the property was transferred to your name temporarily strictly to protect it during financial uncertainty. He assumed there was a mutual understanding that it would revert back to him when things stabilized." My silence stretched. I wanted to laugh or scream, but I just let him talk. "There are concerns, Jamie. Legal ones. The sale may present complications. Your father would appreciate clarity. Perhaps this was a mistake." I took a breath. "Ron," I said, slowly, "check the county records." He paused, then chuckled nervously. "Do you happen to have a copy of the deed transfer?" "I do. Would you mind? You'll get it the same way you got this number. Through the proper legal channels." I hung up. The next morning, I got the follow-up email from Ron's firm. Much colder this time. Formal request to cease all sale-related activity pending a review of ownership. Legalese 4. You've messed with the wrong family legacy. I forwarded it to the title company. Attached every document. Signed deed. Notarized file. Even the time-stamped PDF from 2019 titled Temp Transfer My Ass. Yes? I'd renamed it. Years ago. Call it intuition. That Wednesday. The sale closed. The buyer, some tech guy from Chicago, offered cash. No inspection. Said he liked the raw character of the place. I didn't even drive up to Traverse City. Just signed the papers digitally. Watched the confirmation come through. And waited. That night, my phone lit up again. Dad. 4 rings. I answered. "No, hello." No small talk. Just, "You stole from me." His voice, usually composed, cracked. That cabin was ours. That was the family home, our legacy. And you just sold it out from under us. "No," I said, calm as ever. "I sold it from under you. The rest of them didn't even know whose name was on the deed. You think you're clever. You think this is justice?" He barked. "You took advantage of your own father. I could sue you." Don't think I won't. I have every receipt, every email, every signature. You never asked for it back. And you sure as hell never acted like it was mine. You'll give the money back. I won't. I'll make you? No. Dad, I said, soft but deadly. Because this time, I'm not paying for your lawyer. Click. 2 days later, my car got egged. Not just a couple shells on the windshield. I mean egged like someone bought the 48-pack at Costco and went Jackson Pollock on my roof. Grill. And door handles. Yolks in the vents. Whites dripping down the side mirrors. It reeked. I didn't report it. Didn't even text the family group chat. Because we both knew who did it. Lindsay has always liked her tantrums messy. The next morning, my mailbox was jammed. Stuffed with shredded coupons. Flyers. Junk mail so tight, I had to dig it out with a fork. Again, I said nothing. Because silence, when wielded right, is louder than any screaming match. But as I cleaned egg off my car and dug paper from my mail slot, something inside me shifted again. Not in a rage way. Not in a victim way. In a blueprint way. Like, maybe this was never about revenge. Maybe this was about reclaiming space. In the house. In the story. In the photo frame. That evening, I pulled up the digital version of that old lake house photo. The one where I was off to the side. Smiling small. I zoomed in. Cropped the photo tighter so that I was front and center, and the rest of them faded into the blur behind me. Then I printed it. Taped it to a simple, handwritten note. Mailed it to my parents' address. This time, I'm in the frame. On purpose. But what I didn't know, they weren't finished. And someone I never expected was about to pick a side. The photo I sent never got acknowledged. No text. No call. Not even a passive-aggressive group chat emoji. But I knew they got it. My mom checks the mail obsessively like it's still 1992 and she's waiting for a Better Homes and Gardens coupon. So when I mailed that cropped family picture, me in the center, them blurred behind, I wasn't expecting thanks. I was expecting a ripple. Instead, I got silence. The thick, weaponized kind. The kind that means we're regrouping. And I was right. The egging had dried. The mailbox sabotage had turned into more of an inconvenience than a threat. But I felt it, that eerie calm before the emotional ambush. Sure enough, 2 nights later, Jake texted me. My little brother. The human beige sweater. Hey, you free to talk? No emojis. No punctuation. Very Jake. We hadn't spoken directly in weeks, not since Christmas, when he handed me a sweater 3 sizes too big and said, "Hope this fits. Got it on clearance." I stared at the message for a while, then replied, "Depends. Family talk or real talk?" He replied fast, "Real." I think we met at a diner halfway between our apartments. Neutral ground. Vinyl booths. Fluorescent lighting. The kind of place you go when you don't want to be overheard or fed anything too expensive. Jake ordered fries and a Coke. I just got water. He sat across from me, eyes flicking from the ketchup bottle to my face like he wasn't sure where it was safest to look. Then he said, "Dad's not doing great." I didn't answer. He's pissed, but also kind of scared. Mom's pretending everything's fine, but I think she's spooked too. I nodded. Slow. "And you?" He shrugged. "I don't know." Confused. "I didn't even know the cabin was in your name." "That's because no one ever asked me anything," I said. "They just assume I'm what?" The family IT department. Emotional doormat. Streaming fairy. He winced. "It's not like that." "Yes," I said, leaning in. "It is exactly like that." He looked down at his fries, suddenly interested in arranging them by size. "Lindsay says you planned this. Like, waited for the right moment to humiliate Dad. I laughed. Just once. Sharp and cold. I didn't plan this. I endured this. And then one day, I stopped. Jake finally looked up. So what now? You just cut everyone off. I sipped my water. I didn't cut anyone off. I took back what was mine. And then I turned off services I was no longer offering for free. Without thanks. He didn't argue. Just sat there. But then he did something unexpected. He pulled a folded piece of paper from his coat pocket and slid it across the table. It was a printed transcript of the brunch conversation. Specifically, Lindsay's line. The one that started it all. It's cute you still show up. Like you matter. Below it. Time code. Audio file link. Paul's name listed as source. I stared at the paper. You're giving me evidence. He shrugged again. I figured if this gets messier, you might need something more than memories. I blinked, then leaned back. You just picked a side. Jake's voice went flat. No. I just finally admitted which side I was always standing on. 2 days later, the fallout began. Dad's lawyer sent a formal cease and desist again, this time more aggressive, accusing me of acting in bad faith to destabilize family assets. Lindsay chimed in via text. Not to me, of course not, but in the family group chat. Lindsay, hope you're happy. Mom cried all day. Dad says you destroyed a generation's worth of history. You're disgusting. Then she added, you've always been jealous of me. This is what you do when you have no kids and no legacy. I stared at that sentence so long my screen dimmed. No kids. No legacy. As if that invalidated everything else. That night, I opened my old Dropbox folder labeled Family Off Limits. Inside it, screenshots, voicemails, PDF receipts, old emails from when I paid for a repair on the lake house plumbing. No one reimbursed me. Photos I took when I renovated the back porch. Proof of presence, of contribution, of care. And buried in there, almost forgotten, was a scanned letter. 4 years ago, when my dad handed me the title transfer. He'd written a single line on a sticky note. Temporary. Just until things cool down with the bank. But the sticky note wasn't signed. Wasn't dated. Wasn't attached to anything official. Just a whisper. Not a contract. I printed everything. All of it. Compiled into a single binder. Titled the front cover in Sharpie. For when they pretend you never existed. And then impulsively I took a second copy. Boxed it up. And drove to my parents' house. I didn't knock. I left it on the porch. Right beside the rusty porch swing Dad never fixed. Taped to the top. A copy of the cropped photo. This time, Jake was in the center too. That night, Paul called. Just so you know, he said. Lindsay reached out. Asked if I'd delete the brunch recording. I waited. I didn't. He continued. I archived it. On 2 drives. One in my safe. One mailed to my brother in Vermont. I exhaled. Why are you helping me? Paul paused. Because sometimes, the person who keeps showing up is the one who actually deserves the legacy. The next day, Lindsay posted a vague Instagram story. Betrayal always comes from the ones pretending to be quiet. Jake replied to it with a single word. Projection. He sent me the screenshot. No caption. Just the proof. And that's when I knew. This wasn't over. Because now, the family wasn't just divided. It was splintered. And the quietest ones were finally getting loud. The thing about silence, it doesn't last long when the people who used to control the story feel like they're losing the pen. By Friday morning, things had escalated. I got a call from Rachel, my realtor. Her voice was tight. Jamie, just wanted to give you a heads up. We had someone call pretending to be you, trying to reverse the closing paperwork. I stood in the cereal aisle of Kroger, staring at a box of Raisin Bran, hands suddenly numb. Who? They didn't give a name, but the title company said the voice sounded female. Mid-30s. Confident. Used a lot of legal-sounding words, but the ID check failed. They backed off when we asked for a notarized signature. Lindsay. It had to be. The audacity wasn't even surprising anymore. It was on brand. Try to cheat, but do it with just enough confidence to make everyone question you instead. I thanked Rachel, hung up, and stood there for a moment. An older man next to me reached for oatmeal and gave me a polite nod. And I realized no one around me knew my world was imploding. That's the surreal part of family warfare. There are no sirens, just quiet detonations. That night, I got the email. Not from Dad, not from Lindsay, from Ron Berenger, the lawyer. Subject line: Settlement Proposal. Traverse City Property Dispute. I opened it. It was 10 pages of bluff. Legalese designed to intimidate. They wanted me to voluntarily reverse the sale and place the funds into a jointly governed family escrow. They used words like emotional damage, historical significance, undue advantage. I read it 3 times. Then I opened a blank document and started writing my response. Not to Ron. To myself. Because this wasn't about legality anymore. It was about ownership of the truth. That weekend, I drove upstate. Not to Traverse City, the cabin was already gone. I went to the storage unit I hadn't visited in months. The one with boxes from my early 20s. College essays. Lease agreements. Old birthday cards never opened. I pulled out a box labeled Mom and Dad, 2000s. Inside, buried under photo albums and a VHS tape labeled Jamie Piano Recital, age 12, was a fireproof envelope. Inside, a copy of the original cabin deed, my notarized title transfer, a signed check from me to Dad, $1,000 maintenance loan in 2020, and most importantly, a printed email from Dad. Subject: Cabin title, good for now. The body of the email read, Jamie, thanks for handling this. You're better with paperwork. Just hold on to it until I get the bank off my back. Proof. Monday morning. I met with my lawyer, Kendra. She was short, sharp-eyed, and wore a navy suit like armor. She flipped through the binder I brought and looked up at me. Jamie, this isn't just defense material. This is your sword. She drafted a formal response to Ron's proposal. It wasn't just a no. It was a full-on legal slap. Confirming lawful ownership. Citing breach of privacy attempts. Warning against harassment, slander, and impersonation. Demanding a cease of any and all fraudulent claims or representation regarding the property. She even threw in a line about unauthorized attempts to manipulate post-sale transactions. Just for Lindsay. We sent it by email and certified mail. I could have stopped there. But I didn't. Because you know what quiet people get really good at? Documentation. I created a new Google Drive folder, uploaded every file, labeled it, in case they come for me again. Then I took one more step. I made a donation. $10,000 from the cabin sale. Sent to a nonprofit in Detroit that supports LGBTQ+ youth kicked out of their homes. A cause close to my heart. Because even though I was never thrown out, I was emotionally exiled in slow motion for years. On the donation note, I wrote, in honor of those who still show up, even when no one saves them a seat. They sent me a thank you letter 2 days later. It meant more to me than any card my mother had mailed in the last decade. And still, Lindsay couldn't let it go. Tuesday morning, she made it public. She posted on Facebook her go-to stage, what looked like a calm, logical story. Families are complicated, but when one member uses legal loopholes to rob everyone else of shared memories, it's devastating. Then came the comments. Her friends, her yoga instructor, some distant cousins I hadn't seen since 2008. That's disgusting. Lindsay, how could someone be so cruel? You're so strong for speaking out. Did she seriously sell it? She never used my name, but everyone knew. So I posted nothing. But Paul posted a link to a private YouTube upload titled, Brunch, March 12th, unedited audio. The caption read, Context matters. It had the full Brunch audio. No cuts. It opened with clinking forks, awkward silence, and then Lindsay's voice. It's cute you still show up. Like you matter. The comments on her post turned fast. Wait. You said that? Yikes. You really told her she didn't matter. Lindsay. What the hell? She deleted the post within hours. But the damage was done. My inbox stayed quiet. Until 9:42 p.m. That night, a message from my mother. No subject line. This is getting out of hand. Please stop embarrassing the family. We don't air dirty laundry. I stared at it, then typed back. You should have done the laundry before it started to stink. I didn't hit send. I just saved it. Because now, this wasn't just about me. It was about truth. And about not shrinking to make others feel comfortable. If they thought I'd retreat quietly, they were mistaken. The YouTube audio had done its job. Paul's upload cracked the perfect image Lindsay had curated for over a decade. Suddenly, her brunch insult wasn't just family drama, it was proof. Real and raw. She tried to fix it. Of course. Deleted the post. Removed comments. Even uploaded a new Instagram story with a candle and a quote. Sometimes the loudest people are the most broken. Pray for them. Classic gaslight, soft focus nonsense. But she underestimated something. The receipts were permanent. And for once, I wasn't the only one noticing. On Wednesday morning, I got a text from Aunt Delia Mom's older sister, the one we always called the ghost relative because she lived alone in Maine and only showed up for weddings. Jamie, I saw the video. Just wanted to say, I believe you. And I'm sorry we let them treat you like wallpaper all these years. Wallpaper. That word hit harder than I expected. It fit. I had been in every room, every holiday, every moment, but never in focus, never heard. Just background decor to everyone else's story. Until now. A few hours later, I got another text. This time from an unknown number. Hey, it's Ava. We haven't talked in forever. But I wanted you to know you're not crazy. I blinked at the screen. Ava. Ava Lee. My cousin from Mom's side. Used to braid my hair at cookouts. Moved to L. Years ago. We hadn't spoken since she came out, and the family collectively ghosted her for making things uncomfortable. I replied. I thought I was the family disappointment. Turns out I was just the mirror. She replied within seconds. Exactly. And mirrors are dangerous to people who lie to themselves. By that afternoon, I was seeing a shift. Paul's video got quietly passed around family circles. Not viral, but viral enough. A few second cousins stopped liking Lindsay's posts. One even DM'd me with a, "You're braver than I'll ever be." It felt small, but powerful. And then, the real twist dropped. Jake, my not so loud, not so loyal little brother who'd been slowly emerging from his shell. He uploaded a blog post. A real one. Title: Growing Up in a Silent Hierarchy. It was just 3 paragraphs, but every word was a scalpel. He wrote about being the nice one, the neutral one, the one expected to keep peace, no matter who got cut. He described what it felt like watching me carry the emotional weight of our family for years, and how he let it happen. He ended it with, "She didn't flip. She woke up. And I hope someday the rest of us do too." I cried. In the middle of folding laundry, with a wrinkled dish towel in one hand and Jake's words on my screen, I cried like something sacred had finally been acknowledged. But the family wasn't done swinging. That evening, I got an envelope, hand-delivered. Inside, a typed letter from Mom. "Jamie, your actions have not just embarrassed us, they've deeply hurt us. This family is your blood. That means something. You don't turn your back on that just because you're angry. I understand you felt ignored. But we all carry burdens. We don't broadcast them to the world. Please take time to reflect. You can still fix this. Love, Mom." I folded it twice and placed it under the magnet on my fridge, right next to the photo of the cropped family cabin, because I wanted to see it. Every day. A reminder that even their love came with conditions. I didn't respond, but I did something else. I created a private online album. Titled it, "What They Forgot." Inside, photos of me repainting the lake house porch alone, screenshots of every utility bill I covered, snaps from birthdays. They forgot selfies of me. A cake for one. Candles still lit. It wasn't for pity. It was for memory. Because people like Lindsay rewrite history faster than they apologize. And I wasn't going to let that happen again. But then, on Friday afternoon, I got the message that stopped everything. From Rachel, my realtor. "Jamie, I'm so sorry, but I just got contacted by a man named Howard Collins, your father. He claims there's a lien against the property that was never disclosed and is threatening to file for damages. Can we talk? This could impact your funds." A lion. I froze. I thought I had checked everything. I did check everything. The title came back clean. Rachel and the title company had both signed off. But if Dad had filed something shady or retroactively claimed debt, I was suddenly at risk. I called Kendra, my lawyer. She answered on the first ring. "Already heard from the title office. It's a bluff. They're scrambling. But I need to ask, did your dad ever use that cabin as collateral?" My blood turned cold. No, at least not to my knowledge. But it wouldn't shock me if he tried. She was quiet for a beat. "Okay, I'll handle the legal angle. But Jamie, this might get uglier before it ends." I nodded, even though she couldn't see me. Let it. Because by now, I had burned too much silence to go back. That night, I poured a glass of red wine, sat on the floor of my apartment, and stared at the lake house photo one more time. The porch swing, the chip in the siding. Me finally centered. They could throw lawsuits, threaten legacies, cling to the illusion of a family that only ever worked in group text, but they couldn't unsee the truth anymore. Not when it was public. Not when people were choosing me for the first time. Monday morning, courtroom 4B, downtown Detroit. The air smelled like dust, coffee, and the nervous sweat of a dozen unresolved grievances. I sat in the front row, hands clasped, heart pacing faster than my breath could catch up. Kendra was beside me, unshakable as always. Tablet in hand, files perfectly tabbed. Across the aisle, Dad and Lindsay sat shoulder to shoulder, both pretending not to look at me, both dressed like they were auditioning for the role of wronged parent and grieving daughter. They didn't know what was coming. Neither did I. Not fully. But I was done flinching. This wasn't a full-blown trial, more like an initial hearing, to assess whether their emergency motion to freeze the cabin sale funds had merit. Their lien claim. Remember, spoiler, it didn't. But they were betting on noise over substance, dragging me into court, hoping I'd fold. Freak. Maybe settle. I wasn't going to give them the satisfaction. The judge stern. Late 60s. No nonsense opened by asking both parties to summarize. Their lawyer, Ron, launched into a heartfelt monologue about family legacy, historical assets, and trust being eroded by opportunistic maneuvering. He painted me like some kind of predator who manipulated paperwork while my poor aging father was distracted by grief. I didn't interrupt, didn't blink, but inside, something cracked and caught fire. Then it was Kendra's turn. Calm, precise, deadly. Your Honor, what the opposing side refers to as opportunism is, in fact, a fully legal transfer of property made in good faith, documented, notarized, and recorded. My client has provided years of financial support utilities, repairs, maintenance that were never reimbursed. Because, frankly, no one else in the family lifted a finger. She clicked her remote. On the screen behind us, a receipt, then an email, then a photo, one by one. Proof, trail, history, and finally the original title transfer with my name. Clear as crystal. The judge didn't say much, but I caught the slight nod. I see what's happening here, look. That flicker of don't waste my time with melodrama. But then, something unexpected happened. Kendra leaned slightly toward the bench. Your Honor, if I may. There's one more submission. From a third party. The judge raised an eyebrow. Go ahead. From the back row, Paul stood. He walked forward slowly, holding a thumb drive and a printed transcript. He looked nervous, but grounded. I'm not family, he began. But I was present during a family brunch on March 12th. I recorded the event with consent because I'm a documentarian. I was invited under that context. He looked directly at the judge. The audio contains comments that illustrate the kind of emotional manipulation my client has faced for years. Ron stood immediately. Irrelevant. This isn't a court of character. The judge held up a hand. Let him finish. Paul continued. I'm not here to embarrass anyone. But the opposing side has implied this was an act of betrayal. I believe the recording shows it was survival. He submitted the audio and transcript. The judge took it without comment, but I saw his grip tighten on the envelope. Lindsay's face. Pure ice. Her mouth twitched like she wanted to scream but couldn't afford the optics. We broke for recess. In the hallway, I sat on a bench by the vending machine, chewing on a Tic Tac like it could anchor me. That's when Jake walked in. He wasn't supposed to be there. I hadn't asked him to come. But there he was, tie crooked, eyes determined. He sat beside me and handed me a folded piece of paper. I opened it. Inside, a notarized affidavit. To whom it may concern. Jacob Collins. Confirmed that Jamie Collins was the sole financial contributor to the maintenance and upkeep of the family's Traverse City property from 2018 to 2023. No reimbursement was ever requested or offered. I consider her the rightful owner. Signed. Sealed. I stared at him. Why now? Jake shrugged. Because I watched you carry everything. And I'm tired of pretending that's normal. Back in the courtroom, the judge returned with his ruling. Short and sharp. The lien claim is without merit. Funds remain with Ms. Collins. Any future claims must be substantiated by evidence, not emotion. He banged the gavel. One strike. Done. I didn't cry. Not then. But I felt the release like a backpack filled with stones had finally been unstrapped. Dad didn't look at me as he stood. Neither did Lindsay. They walked out without a word. But Jake, he stayed. Later that night, we sat on the rooftop of my apartment building. He brought cheap Chinese takeout. I brought the wine. We didn't talk much, just let the silence settle in the way silence should, with peace. Not punishment. Then Jake said, "You think this changes anything?" I looked up at the stars. "No, but it proves something." He nodded. And then, just before midnight, I got a message from Mom. "If this is what you needed to feel powerful, I hope it was worth it." I didn't respond. I just looked at the screen, then deleted it. Because that power, it didn't come from the court. It came from choosing myself. 2 weeks after court, life was quiet. Not peaceful. Not resolved, just quiet. The kind of quiet that feels earned. No more emails from Ron. No more just checking in texts from Mom. Lindsay had gone completely radio silent. Even Facebook, her favorite battleground, had nothing but her reposting wellness memes about boundaries and forgiveness. Cute. Jake came by on a Sunday. He brought bagels. Everything bagel. Still warm. He said, "I remembered you always liked the ones with sesame, but no onion." Funny how small details suddenly feel like apologies. We sat at my kitchen table, the one I refinished myself when I couldn't afford a new one. He talked about maybe moving out of Lansing, maybe even therapy. I just nodded. We weren't trying to fix things, just trying not to break them more. The cabin was officially off the books. Sold. Gone. And yet some nights, I still saw it in my dreams. The porch swing. That faded blue door Dad never repainted. The fireplace where I once fell asleep mid-book, only to wake up with a blanket tucked around me. I never knew who did it. Maybe Mom. Maybe not. Memories don't disappear when you reclaim your voice. They just lose their power to haunt you. Ava flew in from L. Out of nowhere. No warning. Just a selfie at the airport and a message. Got a few vacation days. Want to split a bottle of wine and scream into the lake. We met up at Belle Isle. Isle? She had cut her hair short and wore this mustard yellow hoodie with a rip in the sleeve. We laughed more in 2 hours than I had in the last 5 years of family dinners combined. "You know," she said, watching a swan glide across the water. "For years I thought you had it easier because you stayed close. But now I think you just absorbed more." She handed me a small pin. It was shaped like a house, cracked down the middle. It's from a queer artist in Silver Lake, called The Inheritance We Heal. Thought you'd get it. I wore it the whole ride home. A week later, Paul invited me to a local screening of his new docu-short. He called it Ghosts at Brunch. I laughed when I saw the title. But when I watched the film, just 15 minutes long, I didn't laugh at all. It wasn't just about my family. It was about American family dynamics. Class. Emotional invisibility. There were other voices layered in clips of people talking about being the invisible one. The helper. The quiet backbone. At the end, there was a quote on screen. "They don't hate you. They hate the version of you that refuses to keep bleeding for free." The audience clapped. Some cried. A woman in her 60s came up to me afterward. She touched my hand and said, "Thank you for not shrinking. My daughter hasn't spoken to me in 10 years. And now I think I finally understand why. Sometimes justice isn't thunderous. Sometimes it's just understanding." That night, I logged into my Google Drive, opened the folder, in case they come for me again. It was still there. Every receipt, every document, every photo. I moved them all to a new folder. I survived. Then I shut the laptop. And I wish I could say that's where it ended, that the war was over, that the air cleared and I was healed, and Lindsay apologized, and Dad wrote me a letter filled with honesty. But healing doesn't come wrapped in bows. It shows up slowly, unevenly, in texts from Jake that say, "You okay?" in emails from Paul that say, "Want to collaborate again?" in hugs from Ava that last a little longer than they used to. And in silence. Not the kind that erases you, but the kind you choose for yourself. A month later, I got one last letter. From Dad. Typed. No handwriting. No signature. Just a few lines. Jamie, if this is the life you want, I hope it keeps you warm. We did what we thought was best. I don't agree with how you've handled things, but I hope you find peace. I folded it once, placed it in the fireplace, and let it burn. Not out of spite, but because closure, for me, wasn't about them changing. It was about me no longer waiting. Now, when people ask me why I sold the cabin, I say this because I couldn't keep holding up a house that was never built for me. And when they ask if I'd ever go back, I tell them the truth. I still carry it with me, just not the weight. To those of you who've watched this whole story, thank you. If you've ever been the one who kept showing up, who was told you were too sensitive, too much, or not enough, I see you. And I promise, silence isn't strength if it's the only thing keeping others comfortable.